Welcome to the Man of the Law podcast. Much appreciated to have you on. I'm with Jason Rebsch. Hopefully, I pronounced that properly.
That was perfect.
Okay. And Jason is also known on Instagram and YouTube as BJJ Cop. He's been doing this for a long time. Um, second degree black belt, just received your second degree black belt from Renzo Gracie, I saw. So, congratulations on that.
Thank you, sir.
And you're a retired police officer, so that's really why we're talking. Police jujitsu is kind of, what we're both into. You've been doing it for a long time, and I've been doing it for a short time. And that's why, I've been talking to people in the industry and, people that are kind of, leading the charge in the industry
Hmm.
with, police jujitsu and jujitsu for police. So that's kind of my main focus. I love jujitsu in general, but, I'm kind of, trying to bring it to police officers. So, you're a retired police officer with over 20 plus years. You're the head instructor and co-owner of Renzo Gracie down in Austin, Texas. So welcome to the show, and it's good to have you on. And we got plenty to talk about.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. And to start, just kind of, with your beginning, I usually, because people always ask, like, how'd you get into jiu-jitsu? How did it start? And for me, I started in law enforcement and, saw a need for, me to get some better training, than what I had. And I knew I had to kind of step up my game a little bit. And so I sought out training on my own. I found Brazil 021 in Chicago. I just happened to had, two fantastic, black belts from Rio that live 5 minutes from my house.
Well, that's
And
perfect.
yeah, and Andre Terencio also trained, police, military down in Rio before he came up here in Brazil. So he had a good understanding of, how it's different on the street and how important, jiu-jitsu can be for law enforcement officers. So not only was I doing fundamental jiu-jitsu there, I did years of private lessons with Andre and, threw on my duty belt and, we just worked through stuff, day
Oh,
after
that's
day.
fantastic, man.
Yeah, so I kind of had that, before I didn't know anything really about, C4 PJJ or EFC at the time. I was just like,
Hmm.
hey, I'm going to strap on the duty belt, and just put me in bad positions and work out of it. And most of it is, fundamental jujitsu, but you gotta, change it up a little bit for the street. So yeah, how did you start? What came first? Was it the police or was it jujitsu?
Police was first, and I'd been policing for maybe 5 years, I think, at that point before I started training. I think that's correct. I'm getting older, so the time scale kind of I get confused a little bit on how many years it was. But I was into my police career just a short time,
Hmm.
and I had gotten in enough scraps that I knew I was kind of getting lucky because I'm not a big guy. I'm like 5'7", so I'm not, I don't have height or anything like that going for me. The only thing I ever had going for me, I had a little bit of athleticism I got from my dad, but so I was just kind of a tackle and pray type situation, and it seemed to always work out, which I think happens for a lot of cops too, because most of the people I think we deal with are typically lower end, not really very capable to begin with. So you can kind of overwhelm them just with your natural athleticism and stuff. But I'd had a couple where it wasn't quite like that, and so I knew I needed to seek something out. So I was kind of looking around, and I have to credit my brother because he had been a lifelong martial artist. I had never trained martial arts, and he with traditional martial arts, but he had gotten into jujitsu a little bit, and he had told me that, hey, you should try jujitsu. I think it works. It would work really well for cops. So I found a place called Elite MMA in Houston. I was down in Houston, and uh, went in and got a my introductory private. And I remember High Win was the black belt there, and he was just like, as a cop, he goes, well, we'll show you some stuff I think might be effective for you. And he showed me like a takedown and a Kimura, I believe. And I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. And so then I took my first class and I kind of got hooked, period. Yeah, it definitely turned out to be very effective for the job, but I found this whole other community and this whole other lifestyle that just fit me. It was just what I was looking for, I think, at the time, honestly. And yeah, it's just been a big part of my life. And it became, obviously it turned into something where I figured out how you could use jujitsu. I was kind of like you were doing. You're trying to find ways that you can make this work
Hmm.
on the job. Like, how can I use this effectively on the job, right? And you were doing that by taking privates and putting the gun belt on. I did the same thing. I wasn't taking privates. I was just putting the gun belt on, grabbing guys off shift. I was like, let's play around and see what happens.
Yeah, see what works, what doesn't work, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we were just playing around. Like I knew what I needed to do on the street. Like I've been a police officer long enough to know what I want to do. And it's like, well, with jujitsu, how can I use that to achieve these goals? And trial and error through testing and playing around and just trying to figure it out. I started kind of figuring things out on my own. And then over time, I found Chad Lyman with C4C, and he took everything to the next level for me. He kind of mentored me into like real combatives for police officers and what it looks like and how to properly use jujitsu and fighting in an effective form with combatives. And so here I am now, and I do jujitsu full time for my career, my living, and still teaching cops. And yeah, that's kind of my, I guess, a synopsis or
Yeah,
the
like
short
the
form of how
short
I got here.
version. Sure.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was kind of the same way, being a police officer brought me to jujitsu, but jujitsu turned into a whole nother thing for me. I know some people
yeah.
that just, take it once a week or twice a week, and it's just kind of that's it. But it kind of, like you
Mhm.
said, became a lifestyle for me. Really fell in love with jujitsu and all the benefits it has, and I kind of became that guy that was training 4 or 5 times a week and
Yeah.
loved being at the school and training and just wanted more. And so yeah, it really kind of took off from there. So let's talk about kind of like bridging the gap from sport, to because I think we've all been through that. We rise up in jujitsu and get to a certain level where we're, mine was more of a brown belt level where I was like, I got to kind of start switching it up and thinking of, better ways to, you know, um, use it in law enforcement, which I think fundamental jujitsu is very effective also, but there's things that you don't want to do in the street that, you do in sport jujitsu, obviously. So that's where it kind of comes down to, programs like C4PJJ. And I know you're a level 5 black pin in instructor in C4PJJ. So, yeah, if you could just talk about C4PJJ a little bit and, kind of,
Yeah.
what works best for law enforcement. I kind of know I'm EFC level 1 instructor. So, got the
Go
train with,
Wads.
yeah,
Yeah.
got the train here. It just
Wads,
happened.
Wads is great.
Yeah.
Wads, so when I started with C4C, Wads was C4C.
Yeah.
And that's who I kind of cut my teeth with Wads and Chad and those guys, and they mentored me up and kind of got me to where I am now. But
Yeah.
I think I would say the difference between sport and what we teach cops is it's your goals are completely different, right?
Right.
Your outcomes you're looking for are completely different. In a sports setting, it's just points and submissions and things like that. You're trying to win a match, and so being on bottom, it doesn't. You could stall. It's just a completely different thing. Where your outcomes, of course, in combatives are to gain control of a subject in a dominant position where you can finish that fight as quickly as possible and get them under control as quickly as possible. So the outcomes are obviously usually about getting on top. They're about pins. They're about things of that nature. So what you teach is going to be jujitsu, but it's going to be jujitsu for getting someone on the ground, right? Getting them pinned, getting them turned over, gaining control of hands, watching hands, being able to disengage when necessary. It's also the ability to escalate and de-escalate force as necessary. As you know by this point, a lot of times people will start fighting you, but very quickly will stop once they realize like it's not
Yeah.
going anywhere, and that's when they kind of figure out, well, I don't want to get hurt, so they'll just quit.
Hmm.
So you got to be able to turn it off and just de-escalate in a safe manner and in a way that maintains control, right? So yeah, the goals are completely different, and of course the variables are way more. Like we're dealing with weapons, the ones we're
Right.
carrying, the ones they may be carrying. We're dealing with environments that are could be anything. Could be on a sloped, grassy hill. You got curves. You could be on concrete. Could be in a store. Could be in a trailer. Like any possible setting could exist. We're dealing with walls. We're dealing with vehicles. We're dealing with moving vehicles. We're dealing with all kinds of things where you have to employ effective combatives to neutralize the situation and as safe as a manner as possible. And that's not easy, right?
No.
It's
Yeah.
very difficult, and that's what makes this type of training and people like Chad and C4C so important to police officers in general and to agencies because we look at those situations and we have a lot of expertise looking at those situations. We have very high level instructors constantly looking at ways to deal with, well, what if we're on a barrier? Well, what happens if this happens? Well,
Right.
let's break it down. If we don't have someone usually has an answer or something pretty close to an answer that we can refine and work with and pressure test and get it to a place where, okay, let's start. This is effective. Let's start teaching this to guys.
Right.
Uh, and that's kind of a huge difference between the sport aspect of jujitsu versus what we do. And of course, it's encompassing in all scenarios. We're talking striking. You have to deal with people striking at you, trying to hit you,
Mhm.
you know, get away. They're trying to get away from you. You got to grab them trying to get away. The minute they turn because they decide they want to throw at you now because they can't get away. All these transitions are happening, and you have to know how to transition from one to the next, and then when to turn it off. And that's where the training is just so important. Like if you don't have that training and you were caught before training and after training like me, I think you can remember like how you handled a situation before training versus where you probably are now in your level and when you handle people on the street.
Oh yeah, it's night and day.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a 180-degree difference. And I
Yeah.
can remember like when I felt that change where, oh, I have complete control of like these people that I'm dealing with. Like there's
Mhm.
nothing we can do right now. And versus, you know, grab them, pin them on the ground, and we do what we got to do to try to get them cuffed at that point, which
Right.
if all you got, you don't have a lot of tools with you, so you resort to what you know, which is not much.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And some of the small details that, I got to train with Chad out in Las Vegas, had the pleasure of meeting Chad, and he took me into he's at the Las Vegas police department out there, and
Yeah, Metro.
yeah, at Metro, got to train with some Metro officers. So just great guy, C4C, PJJ is great
No,
stuff.
I'll tell you, Chad doesn't get enough credit. Like he's one of him, Rob McGow, people
Oh
like that.
yeah. He's
They're
he's a
the
pioneer of this industry, absolutely.
Absolutely. And what they have, what the change that those guys initiated and have brought us to at this point is huge. And I,
Yes.
I feel like they really don't get enough credit for the work they've put in and not just the work they put in, but the absolute effect, Mike Bland as well. Because
Hmm.
Chad at Metro and helped him develop, they developed this together
From
and
scratch. Yeah. Right.
Oh yeah, like basically, hey, we get what works, and
Hmm.
Mike Bland's I think he's a 100th degree black belt by now, but fought at ADCC
Yeah.
2003. A lot of people don't know, but he's one of the main instructors for C4C. I just taught with him up in North Dakota, and the guys, I know he's a legend. I know what he's
Right.
done, and
But
we're
yeah, the
fortunate.
cadre, if you look at the cadre on the website for C4 PJJ, these are all like super high
Everybody. We
level
got
people.
Clutch up
Like,
in
yeah, it's
Washington.
fantastic. Yeah.
He's amazing. Like his knowledge is huge. His jiu-jitsu is
Hmm.
awesome, and he's a great guy. Like we're very fortunate, and like so there's other companies doing well as well, but we're extremely fortunate at C4C. When I go teach with these guys, like I'm always like, almost a little bit in awe that I'm teaching with these guys because
Hmm.
they're so good, and
Right.
I learn every time. Like every time we teach together, even though we're teaching a class, I'm learning as well with these guys because they're always showing something that's a little bit different, a little bit new, a little more effective, and we're always altering and changing.
Yeah.
Sorry about
And,
but
and it's,
hey,
and,
sorry,
oh, no,
Peach,
no worries.
my
You got your
dog. I don't know what
dog?
she's barking at. Yeah,
Yeah. No worries.
she every once in a while she tries to act tough, but
Yeah.
she's just a
Mine's
good.
over here laying in the sunshine. I got a
That's what she
fat
needs to
French
do.
bulldog. She's sunning herself right now because it's like 10 degrees in Chicago here.
Oh
So,
no, we're at the, I think 50.
well, that's not bad. That's
Pretty
not bad.
awesome.
That's cold for you guys, though.
It's perfect for me. I like this
Yeah.
weather.
And like when you talk about that, like guys like Chad, I see like he could probably be retired down in Florida somewhere chilling out. Like
Yeah, good.
he doesn't have to be doing this, like, still fighting, still wanting to,
He would be
change the
miserable.
industry.
Chad would be miserable if he was sitting on a beach in Florida right now.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
telling
true.
you. He
Yeah.
would be on the beach and he would be trying to fight people on the beach.
Right, exactly. Hey,
He
you
would be
want to
like, let's go, let's
grapple?
fight,
Right.
let's
Let's
grapple.
grapple.
And I'm
Right.
like, come on, man. Like I could
Exactly.
see him. Like we were in South Dakota last year, and one of the guys that was hosting us, he took us to one of the national parks. We have a lot of buffalo, and
Mm.
which is pretty cool. But there's a buffalo, and first thing Chad goes, Jason, you think I could take the buffalo? I'm like, no, Chad, you cannot take that
No, you
buffalo.
can't.
Do not
Right.
get out of the car.
Right.
I think I can take it, Jason. I'm like, Chad, don't get out of the car.
Yeah.
So, but
He's
yeah,
a
it's his mindset. He's just go, go, go. I don't think he knows
yeah.
another way to live,
Yeah.
which thank God, because we get to benefit from that mind.
Yeah. Because most police officers, like even like myself, like I don't make any money on like really doing what I'm doing. It's like, I got this Friday night class and I teach and like, it's kind of a labor of love because I love doing it. But it's like, police officers, need to step up and, start bringing other police officers in. And I kind of saw the same thing. But it's hard sometimes, you have a good product and police officers are just like, man, I don't feel like training, and it's like,
Yeah, and that's wild to me. Um, I've never understood like the mentality once you get on the street and you're working and you see what you have to deal with, like
Right.
that okay, what I have is good enough. Like, because
Yeah.
it became apparent to me pretty quickly. I was like I'm getting lucky. Like I need
Yeah.
to figure this out. And I don't know if it's a mindset thing, and I think maybe it is. Different people get into law enforcement for different reasons, and there's probably people in law enforcement who don't belong. They get into it for the
Yeah.
wrong reasons, I think. And
That's
I mean,
true.
you know what I'm talking about. People
Yeah.
just look for a job with benefits that pays decent and
Hmm.
security, like financial security. But I don't think you shouldn't have that mindset if you become a police officer. I didn't even think about those things when I became a police officer. I just wanted to chase bad guys and help people. Like,
Hmm.
wanted to do that. I didn't even care about the pay. Like, we were getting paid trash back then,
Right.
and it didn't even bother me. I was like, I don't care. I want to get put me in a patrol car. Let me chase somebody. I want to
Hmm.
do the job. And meeting people who weren't really of that same mindset was a little unnerving. But I will say, I think I think the majority of people who get into the career field do want to do the right thing and do the good
Yeah.
thing. you know, Sometimes it's difficult to be uncomfortable and to spend a little extra money on getting beat up every, 3 times a week. Some people have a hard time swallowing that pill. And
Yeah.
we did a study with Invictus, and one of the things that came out was never needed it, so why should I go train? And I was like, well, you don't need it till you need it. And
Right.
then if you haven't been training, it's too late, at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And it only takes, one call and if you don't have the skills that could be a serious problem. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, let's talk about Invictus a little bit since you brought that up. And I was looking on the website for Invictus, and speaking of that, it says less than 3% of police officers train outside their mandatory, minimum. And
Yep.
that is such a small number for, what we do on a daily basis. The majority of our calls are, you might have to go hands-on and at least grapple with someone or at least put a combative person into custody. And the fact that, we don't train that more it baffles me
It's kind
too.
of
Yeah.
it's wild to think about, right? I mean, it's one
Hmm.
of the things, like when you're out in working, like you put your hands on people all the time. Like you're every
Hmm.
call, you're probably putting your hands on somebody to some level. Like it could just be, hey, stand there, or you're just within proximity of getting an ID. Like you're within proximity of touch, like where things could go a different way. Like you're constantly having to use your hands, control people either verbally through whatever, possibly physically as well, on a consistent basis. Like it's one of the most consistent things we do as police officers. And yeah, like 3% seek training outside. And there's probably a lot less departments even providing training to that level. That's necessary for officers, other than mandatory minimum stuff that's required by their state to get done. Like it's crazy. And I've had conversations with officers, and they'll always say, I don't have time, I don't have money, I don't have this. And I'm like, I was divorced with brutal child support. It wasn't brutal, but it was tough, very tough child support. And just getting by for a short period of time after I got divorced. But you know what I always did? I always made training. And
Yeah.
there's so many more reasons and benefits for it. It's not just because it's good for the job, because it is, but like the mental aspect of it, the mental health aspect of it that it provides officers. Because again, we know that's another thing. And I think we're getting a little better about talking about it, but the PTSD issues that police
Yeah.
officers are dealing with, especially after just a few years, it doesn't have to be a shooting incident, right? It doesn't have to be an extreme critical incident. We're
Right.
talking about small, what is critical to other people, incidents happening all the time that we
Hmm.
deal with on a consistent basis that become normal for us. Those aren't normal. Like our brain, it's not normal for our brain to go through these ups and downs like all day long for years, right?
Hmm.
We're not supposed to live like that. But, we do, and it creeps up on you. You don't realize it, but at least jujitsu gives you an avenue for that mental health, at least a steam release, so to speak, or a way
Yeah.
to release some pressure off of that. And it also gives you a more balanced view of society, I think, as well. Because if you only surround yourself in police departments with your coworkers and stuff, and that's your only people you talk to, well, it gives you a skewed view of society because what do we deal with, right? We deal with
Hmm.
negative interactions all day long. We're dealing with people in their worst situations and their worst moments. And people lie to us constantly. And so you get
Right.
just a view of society where everybody's just a scumbag, and that's just not the case. When
Right.
you're training at a jiu-jitsu academy, at least you have exposure and ability to make friends with people who are not involved in law enforcement, but they're just regular people living, taking care of their families with all kinds of different career fields who actually really appreciate us quite a bit. And you get
Yeah.
to, yeah, and you get to have that experience like, oh, like everybody's not a dirtbag. There's a
Right.
lot of really good people out there that care about us and want us to be okay and do well.
Yeah, no, I agree. In the mental health aspect, I personally know officers that have committed suicide that I've worked with in my district and
Yeah.
in our police department. I think the numbers are something crazy. Like we have a 60% higher suicide rate than any other department, and that's just baffling and just doesn't make sense. And because there are a lot of options out there, you can do other things,
Mhm.
but yeah, jujitsu is a good part of that. If you take the combative side and the job side out of it, if I wasn't a police officer tomorrow, I'd still be training.
Yeah.
The physical aspect, the mental health aspect, and just the community aspect also of being around different people, and you get all walks of life on the mats, and and that's the great thing about it. So people you wouldn't even kind of be friends with. Otherwise, you would be, and that have totally kind of different life paths. But jiu-jitsu brings us all together, and we're all kind of friends on the
Mhm.
mats,
Mhm.
and that's one of the great things about the community gym and the jiu-jitsu gym. So I see that all the time. I think it's fantastic. Yeah, and most often, most people I train with are like, "Oh, that's awesome! That police are training. More police should be training
Yeah.
and be on
The
the
one is
mats."
training,
Yeah,
right? They're
right,
like, keep
exactly,
thinking
right,
it. Especially someone's been training a while. Hey, let me show you this thing. Like, it's they want us to be okay. They want us to do our jobs effectively. And
yeah,
they support us. The majority of people support us. I know we went through a rough period here
yeah,
the last few years. It's been rough. And for cops. And I exited out about this point and
hmm,
kind of in the height of it, I guess. And
yeah,
I feel like there's starting to, I feel like, and I hope I'm right. It feels like there's a change happening and the election of Trump and then take your politics out of it. I think you're seeing a different society. I think our society is we're turning some type of corner right now, and I don't know what it is, but I see a difference in the way people look at things. I think the defund the police movement really it opened people's eyes when they actually have firsthand experience with what that looks like.
right.
And when you attack police officers, prevent them from doing their job, uh, it's not good for society. It's not good for communities. Like communities fall apart and criminals get a hold of those communities and start really running a roughshod over everybody. And then you get a real firsthand experience of what it's like to not have law enforcement active and working and supported.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
starting to see the consequences right in front of their
yeah, it's
face.
it's
Yeah, yeah,
severe. Those aren't your friends.
exactly.
Those
Right.
guys aren't your friends. Cops are part of the community. That's one of the things about being a police officer. You typically work in the community or close to the community that you
Yeah,
work with. You live in those communities. You have
right.
friends in those communities. You have an investment in that community to be in a good place.
Yeah.
Uh, Criminals do not. They don't want it to be a good
Hmm.
place. They want it to be easy for them to hit their licks and to get easy money and easy theft and take advantage of people. They want it to be easy.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah,
they're not the
exactly.
veterans. Where
Yes.
police officers, I've always seen this too, like police officers and veterans are the best of us. Like they're the absolute best of our society. They go out, they want everything to be safe. They put themselves on the line. They're willing to stand between a bad person and people who need help, and put their life and their safety and their physical safety on the line to make that happen. And I just think there's very few callings higher than that. And I'm glad to see. I think people are turning around and as a whole, you're seeing people really appreciate the work that cops have done in the past and want to do.
Yeah. And I think 2020 was just a crazy year. You had the mix of the pandemic with other police stuff and an election year. And it was like this culmination of just craziness. And I worked through all of 2022 and it was just, I still think about that year as just like the wildest year I've ever worked and
Yeah.
and it would just It was just a crazy year. But I think we are turning a corner and it's changing. And I think people are seeing not, you don't need to defund the police, but you need to really fund them and invest more in their training and get
Yes.
them better trained. Right.
Better training. That was the answer the whole time. It was
Right.
like, you just need better training. It's available.
Yeah.
You need to invest in that training. I
Right.
remember I would hear comments like, well, we don't want cops to be trained killers. So like, what are you talking about? Like,
Right.
do cops do their job effectively or not? Because if a
Mhm.
cop can't do his job and can't handle someone physically, guess what he resorts to? Like I tell you, if
A
he can't
higher level
handle
of
somebody that's
force.
fighting him, he's going to shoot him.
Right.
Like it can get to that point and it can be legally justified. Is that what you want? Like, or would you
Hmm.
rather a guy can grab someone, pin him, control him, get him cuffed and put him in jail, and everybody is physically as safe as can possibly be? No one's dead or seriously injured. Like, isn't that the outcome we want, where
Right.
the least amount of injuries are occurring and on both sides, on every on from the criminal to the police officer. We want everybody to not have to be physically hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people are understanding now, like, how, I would say outdated and not up to date police training is, and
Mhm.
how there's good forms like C4 PJJ, fundamental jiu-jitsu, and these things that can help and make a big difference. So I think police departments around the country are starting to make the connection. We had an EFC course at the Chicago Police Department, and it's called Train the Trainer, and Jay came with the cadre, and it was 60 Chicago police officers, and we all
Awesome.
got level one certified. And I was like, I never thought I would see that in my lifetime. I've been preaching
Wow.
jiu-jitsu for the past over 10 years, and to see it in the Chicago Police Department, and finally, they're embracing some jiu-jitsu and grappling based systems. I was like, this is fantastic.
Yeah,
you
it's
know
happening like around the country. Like, I mean,
yeah.
we're getting calls from around the country to go train. We're getting sent everywhere. We did Boston not that long ago. We had like 60 plus officers from the area.
Yeah.
Uh, Boston actually created their own jiu-jitsu team, the Mass State Police there.
Oh,
And
great.
yeah, we're doing a joint event with them in March, as a matter of fact.
I saw that with Invictus, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're with them, and that's the Massachusetts State Police. That's their guys. It's Casey Lamont and company, and they're great guys and great people, and so I'm really excited about that event to go up there and teach, and we're gonna have a big turnout like we always do, and it's cops who train, it's cops who want to get better, and cops who want to
Hmm.
be involved in the community of teaching cops and making them better. It's I do think it's changing. It's just slow. It's a big boat to turn around. Like we've
Yeah.
been you know how cops are, especially old school cops. I guess I'm an old school cop now, but the
Yeah.
guys who were old school when I was
Right.
still in it, it's hard to get those guys to be like, I still hear the comments. Are you guys hugging on each other? And
Right. Exactly.
like, yeah, well, one of my favorite stories is a guy who I know he'd been training a long time, taught with us before, and I won't say his name because it's an interaction he had with his chief. He's not at that department anymore, but I'll we'll save the names to protect the innocent.
Right.
And but he said he was having a conversation with the chief about needing to train. Like, you guys, we should need to be training, but because no one else in the department was training, says we need to do this stuff. And he's like, well, we don't need it. He's like, one time I had the fight of my life with this guy, but I came out on top. And then his response was, if you trained, it wouldn't have been the fight of your life. And then just
Right.
shut it down right there. And I was
Yeah,
like, that
exactly.
encapsulates it exactly.
Yes.
It
Right.
won't be the fight of your life. It'll be just another day.
Right.
Is what
Exactly.
we want.
Yeah, perfect example. Totally makes sense. And I think what's happening now too is, the reason we got in Chicago was because some of these, officers starting to get promoted and put in ranked positions are jujitsu people now. And they're saying, hey, we got to bring this in. So
Mhm.
that's really been helping too when you start seeing sergeants, lieutenants, other
Yeah.
people getting promoted into the training academy, and they're like, hey, we need some jujitsu here because we
Uh,
train, it's good stuff, it works. And so some of the kind of, I think the new guard in some of these departments are
yeah.
realizing like, yeah, we need to bring this in. And yeah, like most of my students are, probably within, 3 to 5 years on the department. They know they've got a long career. They understand the importance of jujitsu. I'm on day shift. I work with a lot of, 20-year veterans too. And they're like, yeah, good luck with that kid. I ain't training, and it's never
It's
going to
that
happen.
old, it's that old, it's
Right.
that old mindset. It's the stuff
Right.
yeah, dealt with forever. And
Yeah.
but it's changing, right?
Yeah.
The old guard's moving out, the new guard's moving in. And
Hmm.
although I think there's some negative things with this new group of guys coming in, or guys and girls. I think one of the positive, their jujitsu is part of their in their zeitgeist, I guess is the hot word now, but
Hmm.
it's part of society. Everybody knows what jujitsu is now. Everybody
Yes.
relatively knows, hey, this is a pretty effective thing. Like if someone trains jujitsu, be careful type. They see the UFC and they see, Joe Rogan talking about jujitsu all the time. And so now it's like a thing where people kind of know what it is and respect it. And so it's changing, right? So the young guys are training jujitsu. A lot of guys, I see guys that have trained in my academy and then go become police officers now. So they've already been training and then
Yeah.
cops. So it's just part of their lifestyle already.
Hmm.
Those are such huge assets immediately once they get on the street, because they already are a step above so many other guys, just with that one little factor that they trained already.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've heard you say it too, and I've said it like, if you had a department that was all trained at least up to blue belt level,
Ah,
what a
can
difference
you
that would make.
imagine?
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine
Yeah.
how and still trained consistently, like
Hmm.
how well and how quickly they could end physical interactions on a.
And team tactics, just knowing what to
Oh,
do
and that
together. Yeah.
changes the world completely when you get two
Yes.
more officers that are trained.
Yes. Because
Now
that's
you,
most of the problem. It's, too many cooks in the kitchen. And if one person's
yeah,
trained and the other three are not, it's like, man, like,
yeah.
you rather have everybody else leave and just be like, let me grab this guy. So like,
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah. A little bit. But I'll tell you, it is help. The us having these like C4C and et cetera training departments and getting guys, even if you have one guy who's well trained in that and is effective with using their combatives,
Yes.
and they can get the guys on the page. It doesn't take much. You can get one
Right.
guy on the hips, one guy on the head. Hey, we need
Yeah.
a pin. Put your weight right here to hold that position. Like, just a little bit of communication through those things
Yes.
with one guy that's trained, and you
Yeah.
got another partner that'll listen. Like you
Hmm.
can absolutely handle the situation very well.
Yeah. And I had a situation it was like a mental call and like we had to take this guy to the hospital. It was like what's called a writ. It's almost like a warrant. You got to take the guy in
Mhm.
and just a little bit of communication. And I told my partner, I was like, he's a little newer on the job, just about 3 years. And I said, you're cuffing and that's all you're doing. And I'll do the control. We're going to
Mhm.
grab him right away. You put the cuffs on. So a little bit of communication and a little bit of stuff.
Yeah.
And sure enough, slipped his arms. He slipped the cuffs on. We had a little plan. And that made all the difference in the world instead of just going, well, I'm just going to grab this guy and see what happens. Yeah.
Start pulling
So,
them different directions.
right.
Those can get a little crazy. That's
Oh, yeah.
really cool, and I think that just shows like how it, you know, I guess if you go back to when jujitsu kind of hit America or whatever in the late '80s or mid '80s
Hmm.
to the first UFC to now, like just jujitsu alone, and it's spread across the country, and the amount of officers who are now just training on their own
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
or bring it into the career field on their own. Like it's making everybody so much better at what we're doing, and it's just really it's a good positive thing to see happening. I think it's a bright it's the future's bright in this area with combatives and stuff with police officers, I think. And hopefully a lot of funding will come in through this new administration to departments to really
Yeah.
pay for quality training for their officers consistently, so that it'll make a huge difference if we can get that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And now, we talked a little bit about C4PJJ and that, that system. We kind of know what that is and for police officers, so check that out. But could you talk a little more about Invictus and
Yeah.
kind of how that came together and like your mission there and what that's
Yeah,
about? Yeah.
it's very similar to what we're talking about now. Like
Yeah.
actually it's very similar to you and I having a discussion about how important jujitsu is for cops. That was what was going on, and I guess it was 2018. And it was kind of the time I was cutting my teeth on trying to figure out what in jujitsu works real well for cops and what doesn't. And I would post a couple of videos here and there. And so Ari Nazan, who lives in Canada, saw my videos and made a comment. And I don't know if you remember this from if you've been in jiu-jitsu long enough for this, but he had a website on YouTube called or YouTube channel called Submissions 101. So when I was like a white belt, I would go to channel. Me and my buddy Ronnie, we go to this channel all the time and look up stuff so we could like, hey,
Sure.
see this technique, or we're gonna work this. I want to practice this today. Like people do this today now, but with Instagram, whatever.
Yeah.
But he really had like the most comprehensive channel out there. No one else really had a channel like
Yeah.
that.
At that time, early on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like the go-to channel.
Hmm.
And you know, so I would always watch that anyway. So fast forward to like 2018 or whatever, he comments on one of my things, and I saw the name, and I knew who he was. I thought that's who it was, and so I messaged him, and he was like, "Yeah, it's me. Yeah, that was me. I used to do that. Now I'm a cop in Canada, and I think this is great." And so we just started talking, and we just kind of built a small community of cops, like some from Texas, Ari in Canada, some others, and we were talking about how important it was to start getting people officers to train, and then Ari wanted to come down and visit me in Houston at the time. I was like, yeah, come on down, we'll train together, we'll do something. I said, we should do a submissions 101 seminar. I was like, all
Yeah.
the timers here, because I knew the community in Houston, like we used to all look at that channel, and I was like, it'll be fun, like the old timers here will really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And
Because
he was
they'd
like,
watch the videos for years and years. Right.
yeah, like we could
Yeah.
let's meet. And he was like, well, how about we do a cop seminar, cop jujitsu seminar? And I was like, okay. I was like, man, do you think it will turn out? He goes, I don't know. I think so. Let's try it. So we ended up starting the first Invictus. We called it Invictus. Ari came up with the name Invictus,
Mm.
and we called it basically. It was just jujitsu for police officers.
Yeah.
Some title like that. I didn't know it was going to pull because I didn't know that many cops were trained. So I was like, man, like I don't even know that many cops that train, but we open it up to everybody. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And we had this 100 cops show up from all over the country to train jujitsu with each other and to meet other cops that train.
Oh, it's
And I
awesome.
think what you touched on is there was this craving from officers everywhere to find other officers who trained.
Yes.
And I think everybody was having the same experience. I know like one other guy that trains that's on the job, but no one else is doing it. So we had this craving to meet other guys who had the same mindset and knew like was like this is the thing, this is the answer for a lot of the things we deal with.
Right.
We just all connected because it was people from all over the place. But yeah, we had like 100 people on our Renzo Gracie mat in Houston, and I met all these amazing people I'm still friends with today. Like that's where I met Chad.
Yeah.
I reached out to Chad because I was a fan of his at the time, and I was actually trying to get into one of his courses because I wanted to learn. And we'd been talking and chatting, and so I invited him to come, and he said absolutely, and he came. We had Travis Joyner, who's with Austin Police Department here. He showed up. He's a ninja that no one knows about. I'm going to bring him to Tahoe this summer for our combatives camp. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Keith Owen passed away. He was a Pedro Sauer guy. He was retired law enforcement out of home. We had a lot of great, Ari and me were there. It was a really fun turnout, and it opened our eyes to how much cops around the country were craving
Hmm.
getting involved. And then it just took off. We've just been having similar our combatives camp in Tahoe. We had over 150 officers on the mat for 3 days straight, just training all day long. Like, and no one took breaks. Like
Yeah.
everybody's on the mat. We had like 6 hours of classes, and like we had a lunch break, and then people just never left. Like they just couldn't get enough. Like it was
Yeah.
just one class after the next. And I kept thinking people were going to take breaks and pick the courses they wanted. They took everything.
Yeah.
It was wild to see, and so much talent now. Like we had like 30 black belts there. They were all cops, and a couple of them, I think, are teaching with us. And one is teaching with us, I think, in Boston, and I think one might be coming to talk. So it was just like this. Wow, look at the change from 2018 to today. Like even though we had 100 cops, like there wasn't that many black belts, and it was
Right.
most blue belts and stuff. And then now all of a sudden it's exploded, and it's created a really cool community of a sub community of police officers that I'm just really proud to be a part of. And I enjoy every event so much because we get to meet so many amazing people, and it's really cool. It's been really great.
Yeah, and just kind of bringing the whole kind of community together as a
Yeah,
whole, and yeah,
yeah.
so it's really good to see, and I've seen that a lot in the jiu-jitsu community with police too. It's no matter where you go, like whether it's EFC or C4
Mhm.
PJJ or somebody else, they're like, hey, come train with us. You're the police, so are we. We love jiu-jitsu. Come on in, and they're happy to share and go over
Absolutely.
techniques and treat you like family. So I think that's been really good too. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a good community. Only jujitsu is a good community for the most
Yeah.
part. There's always little pockets here and there, but like for the most part, it's a pretty good community. And so you add police into that mix, then that's a nice mix. It's a great group of people to associate with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of officers kind of have that, fear of, coming into jiu-jitsu and they're going to get beat up and all that stuff. And I know at our school we have, very strict fundamentals program and it's
Mhm.
and I know Andre is friends with Renzo Gracie, so I'm sure they're kind of from the same, kind of area and, run their jiu-jitsu the same. And I'm sure you have a very structured fundamental course that,
Mhm.
any law enforcement officer could probably step on the mats with you and start from
We
day
do
one.
we do fundamentals. I also do self-defense class once a week.
Yeah,
And some of the officers come into there. And these are officers that train, been through C4C courses and stuff. And they just want to train more. They're like, because we're working
sure.
edge weapons. So we're gonna work edge weapons. It's just more reps working it. And it's we're working getting off barriers today. And so like I'll teach self-defense, and this would be very similar to what we do with police officers, with a little bit of a different outcome, more of a separating yourself from the bad situation and getting out.
Right.
Versus with cops, we're trying to finish the situation
Control.
control, right?
Yeah.
But so the outcomes are slightly different, so you change it up a little bit. But yeah, I still have cops from my academy coming into just self-defense class just to get reps with self-defense stuff. Like it's a mindset thing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like I continue to take fundamentals class as much as I can. I teach two
Mhm.
nights a week and I stay for fundamentals and roll in fundamentals and I think it's fantastic. You can never learn enough fundamentals and you could always get better and you could always,
Mhm.
work on your game and I'm the same way. I'm always kind of seeking out good training and love hitting the mats, but
Mhm.
that kind of gets in your blood after a while after you've been
It is.
training.
It
So
is. Every
yeah.
day I'm on the mat, I'm excited. Like
Yeah.
I never stop in learning, and like every day I'm happy to be there. I'm happy to train. Like I enjoy it. I still get a kick out of it. Like I'm not, it's 17 plus years now, 17, yeah,
Mhm.
17 and a half years of training. And like I'm gonna train tonight. I'm gonna teach tonight. I'm gonna train tonight. I'm excited about it. Like,
Yeah, you look forward to it. It's
and
not
I
like
just
a
been, yeah,
chore,
I
right?
do the
Yeah,
same shit every day. Like it's every day I'm doing this. And
right.
sometimes my body's a little tired and beat up, but I hate missing a day. I still like I want to be on the mat training and getting better. Or
Yeah.
just being there, it's yeah, it's really cool. I'm real thankful and blessed and I'm grateful every day that I I get to do this and I get to do jujitsu on a daily basis and that I even found jujitsu.
No, I think yeah, that's great. And you're kind of one of the leaders in the industry now, and a lot of people look up to you and watch your stuff. And
Sounds weird because
yeah, but you really are.
yeah.
Really, police officers really look up to you and follow you, and you're kind of leading the charge. And
Well, it's very humbling because
yeah, you're like
uh
I'm just the guy that kept training. Like,
man,
man,
I just keep
yeah,
training.
right,
Trust me, I got blue belts in my academy that kick my ass, dude.
right,
There's some tough kids out there, but
yeah,
it's yeah, I mean it's very humbling. Like I'm just a guy, I just train. Like
Mhm.
everybody that you talk to
Yeah,
that's in this group, that's in that space and that teaches cops combatives, every one of us is just someone who trains and like
yeah,
who's just never stopped. Like when we all get together, like well, I was here in Austin just not too long ago. Couldn't wait to train together. Couldn't wait to get on a
yeah.
match with each other and train and share some techniques and try to beat each other up. And
Mhm.
and it always comes down to that core, like just that whatever it is about training with your friends and trying to strangle each other. There's something about it that creates this close bond. And I don't know anything else. I haven't experienced, in law enforcement for sure. On the street, I've created some close bonds with guys doing that job. But there's something a little different about jujitsu and unique, and
Mhm.
something about trying to strangle each other all the time, where it creates this. I think what it is a trust factor. You have to have a trust factor when you're training
Yeah.
because you get put in very compromised positions,
Mhm.
and the fact that you can do that with your friends and they can have you in the most horrible position possible, can break you three different ways or put you to sleep, but they never do. They always let go. They always tap. If you tap, they always let go. Or they even if you don't tap, they don't take it all the way because they don't want to hurt you. So
Right.
there's this innate trust that I think that develops, which creates this kind of bond that's very unique. And yeah, so I have the same bond with all these police officers and the people we train with. But it all started out as guys seeking out training because they wanted to do something cool and get better at their job 20 years ago. And it's just been 20 years and here we all are still doing
Right.
the same shit and seeing each other. We've just been doing it a long time now.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have a lot more experience and you're much better at it.
We're
Yeah.
old. We're
Yeah.
long in the tooth now.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm 48 years old and, I'm still,
You're
training
great.
and,
I 47. I was thinking 47, but you look
okay.
great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's all
I
because of
hit
jujitsu.
50. I hit 50. Jiu-jitsu does keep you young. I hit
It
50.
does.
I hit 51 in March, which
Yeah.
I can't even. When I was 30, 50 thought I thought 50 was old. When I was 20, 50 was, you're on
Oh,
knocking on
yeah.
the door.
Exactly.
Like
Right.
now I feel very young and invigorated. I feel like I have a really long life and still in front of me.
Yeah.
And yeah, so jiu-jitsu definitely I think keeps you
It
very young.
does. And part of that is the lifestyle too. You're training, so you try and, eat healthier, take better care of
Mhm.
yourself. And it all
Lift
kind of,
weights, do all the things. And
right.
that's another aspect, right, that we don't talk about. It's just the physical health that and the healthy lifestyle that you typically start leading if you train on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Just because everybody else around you is doing the same thing.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, you have to have, some kind of healthy diet and take
mhm.
care of yourself a little better to be better on the mats. Otherwise, you're never really going to improve if you don't,
Mhm.
kind of incorporate that into it. So, and yeah, you talked about being older and training partners. We have like two younger competition blue belts that show up to our classes for advanced, and one guy's like 6'2". He's got to be like 260. I think he does like ultra heavyweight or something. But when he comes to class, I love it. I'm like, oh, Big Mike's here and I know I'm going to get some good rolls with him. And talk about pressure testing. It's like if I can survive for 5 minutes with him and not get, stuck under his side control or tapped out, I'm
You're
like,
fine.
that's a victory. That's a victory. I
I mean,
love it.
what's someone on the street going to do? Right.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
I love those nights of training and even if you get smoked that night, it's like, okay, all right.
Mhm.
But it's
Mhm.
like, am I going to face anything worse than that on the street? It's like, probably not. You
I
know.
agree.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been good talking to you. Just to wrap up, I know you're a busy man, but I've been following you for a long time and kind of wanted to talk to you, and I've been talking to kind of people leading the industry, and you're definitely one of them. And love your stuff. And I saw you did some live train stuff too with Brad Barnes.
Yeah, yeah, Brad, he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
We C4C together too, but we met before that, and we've been knowing each other for a few years. He's up in West Texas. I'm here
Mhm.
in Central, and but yeah, we've been friends for years, and we got together with Thiago Alves and Mo and King Mo, and they're kind of one of the some of the guys running that, and
Mhm.
they wanted to do some police combatives on there, so we shot some stuff. We've gotten some pretty good feedback so far. I know it's up and available if you want to go purchase it. I think it's pretty, they got a Live Train actually has a lot of really cool stuff. They do like
Yeah.
wrestling, fighting, a lot of stuff. And so I'm honored that we got to be part of that. And I think they're talking about bringing us back out so we can do a part two and get some more advanced stuff in there and see how it keeps going. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. It's fun that we were using like Tiago and Mo as
Like
Uke
drilling partners. Yeah.
yeah, and
Right.
I'm gonna tell you something, dude. There's no way. Like, there's just certain humans. Like, it's gonna take more than two.
Oh yeah.
Uh, these guys are a couple of them, man.
Yeah.
It's funny to demonstrate, but you can feel the difference. Like, if I don't, well, I'll tell you, we did a little experiment with Henry Gracie's safe wrap thing, and I know that's a whole nother box of worms to get into it. But we were like, we're gonna put you deep into this. Like, Brad and I are pretty experienced. We're not weak guys. We know
Yeah.
what we're doing, and we put them deep into it. It took them all 5 seconds to unravel it, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little intimidating because you're like, God, I was really trying to hold you down. Yeah,
Right.
like,
And like two
didn't
highly
go very
skilled
well.
guys that know what they're doing. And he's like, yeah, I'll get right out of this. No
Oh,
problem.
like yeah, it was yeah. They wouldn't have held him down either. I promise you. Like there was just it ain't happening. And
Right.
but yeah, it was nice to be able to do that. It was really cool. I hope I'm looking forward to being able to do some more stuff with them. And yeah, I enjoyed it very much. They were great guys. They're super supportive of law enforcement. Like it was a big deal to them to do something for cops. Like they were very supportive. And so it's again, the community is very supportive of us, and they want to see us do our job well and safely. And that's another example of it.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, because I just saw some of those videos come up on my feed. I was like, oh, you guys are on kind
Yeah,
of a
we did
different
some stuff
platform.
with
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
No, that's great. So yeah, I always usually ask, any advice to that new officer, thinking about training jujitsu, what would you tell them?
Just go train. Like find the nearest academy. Now it's different than when I started. There's so many options and available in places to go train and try them all out. Like most places give you a 1 day pass or a free trial class or something. Go try them out. Ask your friends that train what they think. Usually they can give you good advice on places that are good for training and good academies to go to. But any training is better than none typically. Although, as Chad says, if you're training trash, then trash is trash. Being good at trash doesn't.
Right.
But
Right.
most jujitsu places are pretty good, and
Yeah.
jujitsu is such a great product that it can't do anything but really help you out if you're doing something on a
Yeah.
consistent basis. So just go train. You're going to find out it's more than just helping you with the job and a physical activity. You're going to find out it's going to open up a whole new door to improving your life that I think you didn't know even existed if you go train.
Yeah, very good advice. And I tell people here in Chicago too, and they're like, well, your gym's too far away. I was like, well, where do you live? Because, I know the jiu-jitsu community here in Chicago, and, there's
Mhm.
Renzo Gracie here too. Uflocker's here. He's a
Mhm.
Renzo Gracie black belt. And there's a ton of good jiu-jitsu here in the city. So I'm like, if you tell me where you live in Chicago, I can give you a place that's probably 10 minutes from your
Absolutely.
house.
You
So,
can also go to Invictus's website. We keep a list of law enforcement friendly academies, which
oh,
are 5% of law enforcement or jujitsu academies. But we keep a list, and so people will send us a recommendation. We'll verify it. We'll do some back checking and maybe make a phone call.
oh,
But
good.
as long as officers back it up, so yeah, it's a great place to go. We'll put it on our website. So even if you're just traveling and you're like looking for a place to train, like most of us do when we go out of town someplace,
Yeah.
if you want to see, hey, these are gyms listed as Invictus, we've confirmed they're a safe place to go train for officers, and they're officer friendly. You can always look at that list, but that's not a comprehensive list. There are gyms in those areas that are also officer friendly. They just haven't reached out to us. Maybe they don't know we exist, but we're a resource that can help out with that as well too, or just message me.
Sure.
I've been in the job, I've been in this world long enough now. Most cities, I know somebody, I
Yeah.
can make a phone call or a text message. Hey, where's a good place for a cop to train? And I'll get a message pretty quick back and I'll send it to you to let you know what recommendation I got.
Oh, cool. I'll have to shoot you a message and get on that good list then.
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. We are law enforcement friendly at Brazil 021
Yeah.
Chicago.
We actually
So,
have a form on the website. If you go to the website, you can fill it out and
oh,
we'll
okay.
respond to you. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, great. Yeah, so it's been great talking to you. Thank you for taking the time and getting a
Thank
little
you for inviting
insight.
me. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
My little small show,
Nah,
but
I've been watching it for a while. You send me clips, and I really enjoy it. And of course, you got a lot of
people keep
friends of
saying
mine that
yes
I
to
know.
talking, so I'm like, fantastic.
I enjoyed it very much. Thanks for inviting me.
And so
Invictus LEO, check us out on Instagram. We have a Facebook page, website as well. Come, you can check out my gym, Renzo Gracie Austin. If you're a police officer, message me before you come, and I'll get you on the mat. It's not a problem. I try to take care of all cops who are visiting. Yeah, or just come see me and hang out, whatever. So I'm always here. Austin's a great city, so I like to share how great of a city it is with anybody who visits because I'm very proud of it. And yeah.
yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you, sir. Thanks again for talking and